the November 21st regular meeting of the Granada Sanitary District Board of Directors is called to order. Roll call, please.
President Leonard Warren.
Here.
Vice President Matthew Clark.
Present.
Secretary Rick Bowman.
Here.
Treasurer Ellen Erickson.
Here.
Director Jim Blaster.
Here.
General Manager and Deputy Secretary, as well as legal counsel Malcolm Butler, and I'm the administrator, Julie Pinto.
Okay, thank you. We have general public participation. I have one speaker request form from David Seaton.
So thank you very much. My name is Dave Seaton, recently elected. I look forward to serving a term for the next 4 years and adding as much value as I can to the board. And really what I wanted to talk about was just the LAPCO meeting last night. I felt like the main takeaway was that for the December 18th meeting, they're looking for hard information that they want to see. The board's restricted in what they can do because it's not a CSD yet. So the only way to kind of get it to go about the process of delivering what they need would be to do a special meeting. I think that I don't think that necessarily. I'm kind of making leaving it to you guys obviously to make a motion. I don't know whether it needs to be the GSD board like this, or even if it's community based in terms of, I think there's enough passion for parks where that we could leave it up to people like Fran and Merrill that have a lot of experience and passion for parks and look at their recommendations. I think the key is that between now and the 18th, they're looking for a good presentation. I think that the best way to kind of leverage our resources is to since we can't talk about that on this board, would be to do a special meeting to flush out as many ideas as we can to put together as solid proposals as we can by the 18th. Obviously, things will need to get revised from them, but I think between now and then, gives us a good opportunity to get the community involved and see what we can come up with. So those are kind of my thoughts. I think just in terms of that was kind of the main takeaway I felt at the end of the meeting when they said, we're looking for this and, we need this information. And the GSD, representatives came up and said, unfortunately, we can't come up with that because it's not allowed in the charter, but I think that a special meeting, could help flush out some of those ideas. And I think even more so, I think longer term, I think from a cost reduction standpoint is community based, where I've seen it done at the Half Bay City Council, very professional presentations where a group of community citizens got together, met for 3 to 6 months, and put together all their recommendations. And I think there's enough passion in the community where we could put together a good community based board that could come and I think help prepare for the 18th. And then also, as this evolves, could be a great resource in terms of helping develop the plan as best we can.
Well, we do have item 3 on the agenda.
Yeah.
I didn't look at what you'd written in here because Delia just said public participation, but we'll cover this.
We'll be discussing it more.
Item
It'll be a
3.
good time to discuss it. Great.
So David, the distinction is if you, in this opening public comment, if you want to talk about something that's not on the agenda, then you do that, but during.
I wasn't sure if
Yeah.
it fit.
I know, right, okay.
Okay, any other comments for items not on the agenda? Hearing none, we will move to item 1.
Mr. President, if we could address the closed session.
Yes.
before we do that. So, you ready for me to do that?
Yes. Please report out of closed session.
We had a closed session previous to this meeting, and there was no reportable action taken.
Okay, item 1, consideration of an ordinance amending District Ordinance Code Section 604 sub 03 relating to the issuance of a Class 3 main line extension permit with a Class 1 or Class 2 sewer permit. Are you gonna explain for everybody's benefit what the different classes are?
Yes, and Delia knows this better than I do. The Class 1 permit is for an individual house connection, and the Class 3 permit is to extend the sewer main. So from time to time, and seemingly less so in this district.
What did you say, class 2? No, class 3 is mainline
That's what I
extension.
said, and I thought Class 3
He
is.
skipped class 2.
Yeah,
Hmm?
He skipped class 2.
Oh.
Doesn't,
it doesn't apply here, so. So from time to time, we get an applicant who comes to the district looking to pull a house permit, and the sewer doesn't extend to his house, so he's got to extend it. Now, our current ordinance says, before we can issue him a permit to start construction on his house, he's got to extend that sewer main. So what it does is effectively add 1, 2, 3 months to the project timeline, because he's got to do the sewer main first and then start the house. So, and in this case, it's a little bit different in that he can't get construction financing. He's got to bundle it all together. So it's a little bit different, but the premise remains the same, is what we're looking to do here is allow them to concurrently start the process of constructing a sewer main and also start building his house. Now, how I've handled this in the past in other districts is I've simply issued them a permit and written them a letter saying, you understand that you are solely, and they have to sign it, you understand that you are solely responsible for construction of the sewer main to your house. You know, if you don't build it, you will not get sewer. You know, and caveat the heck out of it, and that's how we've handled it in different districts. And so Delia's been handling this with the applicant, and she drafted this ordinance, which she ran by Jonathan and myself, and this is our solution to that problem, hopefully.
Well, let me tell you the reason why this ordinance code section is here. It was adopted about 15 and a half years ago. Here's the hint, I've been on the board for 16 years. Why was it adopted? Because a local builder, and I probably need to leave out the names.
Please do.
A local builder went bankrupt. His wife says that caused him to have a heart attack because he bought a property from another another local developer, and was assured that there was no problem connecting up to the sewer system. What he wasn't told is there was no main line to serve the property, and he didn't find that out until he finished building the house and went to connect the lateral, and there was no main line to connect the lateral to. And this ordinance was a response to make sure that that type of thing never happened again. So, because of that, I want to see some method where we can prevent the property from being sold before it's hooked up without written proof of notification to the buyer that the main line isn't built.
And Delia and I discussed that at length. In reality, I mean, there's two issues here. The first issue is, I understand that incident occurred 15 years ago. This opposite incident has occurred a lot more than that. But if you're bored, the only real way to get that proof would be to file something on the title.
Well, you could also require a performance bond that if they sell the property without completing the main line, then we just go hire somebody to complete it.
Right, and I won't put down my issues with performance bonds, or non-performance bonds, as they call them. So, prying that money from the insurance company or the bond companies.
Can we just
hands
require a
is
deposit?
notoriously difficult.
Could we require a refundable deposit, that we would just give them back if they build it, and if they don't, then we spend it and get it built?
I guess we could, but then it becomes our headache. Whereas if you had, is there an issue filing something on the title, recording something against the title?
No, you can record something against the title. The other way that comes to my mind, it's not as effective, obviously, as putting it on the title, but is, you know, nowadays, there's a requirement for disclosure. And you could provide some notice to the owner that if they ever consider selling the property, they would have to disclose the requirement that they get the Class 3 built.
Well,
It's kind of,
speci-
in other words, it's a little short of the recordation, and it's, like I said, not as effective.
Well, how well do you think it would generally work?
Well, I think it comes up pretty infrequently, according to what the general manager's saying, so.
Right.
But when it did come up, I mean, I think the concern here is that the district gets put in a position because there's a sympathy for the second owner who is not informed of this. And
But-
then the district might have to bend its rules, and so what you want to find is a way to be sure that the new owner is going to find out before they buy the property.
Well, let's back up a bit here. We have to have more sympathy for the potential future owner than the current owner. And the reason for that is because this jurisdiction, the coast side, not just GSD, the coast side is pretty bizarre in that sewer mains are built piecemeal, 100 feet here and 100 feet there. And people who are used to reasonable places where you go in and all of the sewer mains are built up front all at once, and you don't end up buying a property and finding out there's no sewer main to serve it, because if there's anything that you can see from your property, there's a sewer main somewhere. If you can see anything that was built, all the sewer mains are in place. So because we allow the sewer mains to be built piecemeal, and I won't even go into all the ridiculous engineering problems that causes, and maintenance problems, and they're huge. I think that, you know, because we bend over backwards to cater to developers on that and allow these 100-foot at a time extensions, that we also have to go way out of our way to protect unsuspecting future buyers who don't expect such silliness.
I'm not in favor of delaying construction based on this, though. I think if it's happening infrequently, if you can devise some kind of a letter that they have to sign that talks about what Jonathan's saying also, that it is your obligation to notify all the future buyers. So if he signs something and then the new buyer is surprised, he can come to us, we can hand him the letter.
Well, let me be
And
clear,
then let him sue.
it's
Yeah,
specific
they're gonna sue him,
to,
they're gonna sue the real estate agent because
Right.
they just.
But
Let's get the
It's
suits
not.
going that way.
but let me be real clear, it's specific to if it's sold before the sewer lateral is connected to a main line, because
Right,
it's moot
right.
once that's done.
Yeah.
Right. So are you all good with that? I'll get a letter, my indemnification letter, plus adding language that says you've got to disclose this to any potential buyers up until the date you connect the house to sewer.
Mhm. If you can have Jonathan make it as nasty sounding as possible.
So how are you going to implement this? People that own lots now where there's no main line all have to do this now?
No. Because the power he's got that other people don't have is he can go to the buyer and go, look, I've got a sewer permit. I'm good. I mean, that's the power he's got. That's where the conflict comes in. Because the other people can't do that because they don't have one. So people look at the sewer permit and say, oh, your permit.
I have an idea. Can we, in addition to the other things you're proposing, can we mark the sewer permit itself saying there's no
idea.
main line to
Yeah.
connect this to?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Big
absolutely.
red stamp or something. I like that
Right.
too. So then if he's showing that to someone, it's got a big stamp.
That's a really good idea.
If you want to speak to this, we need speaker slip.
All I was gonna say is Belmont, the city of Belmont, my sister's recently sold a house, she dealt with it.
You're probably not being picked up on camera. You need to be at a microphone to be picked up.
I was gonna say the good template to look at might be Belmont. My sister recently sold a house and there was a disclosure where it was the onus. It's a good example of a city that enforces it, I think, because of the same reasons. I think it might be a good template to at least look at and you know, just wanted to throw that out there because she just experienced that disclosure and it comes, you know, it comes as part of the escrow, as kind of as a disclosure that's mandated in Belmont, so something to look at.
David is a licensed real estate agent. Potentially, he could bring some specific suggestion to the board at the next meeting, although I guess you want to adopt something here now.
Well, the letter can be modified. We're not approving the letter at this point. We're approving the letter, so.
Right.
As that's
Well-
developed, any input's
Yeah.
fine.
But I'm drafting the letter and issuing the permit after we approve this ordinance, if you approve this ordinance.
How is, assuming we adopt some ordinance tonight, don't we have some requirement that it be posted for X amount of
Yeah.
time? And what is that time? I forgot.
It's within 15 days afterwards or something like that.
I mean, before it takes effect.
It's effective 1 week.
Oh, it's one week?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that a requirement imposed on us by state law, or is that just a self-imposed requirement?
Look at state law.
It is state law.
It's also our own ordinance code says that.
I have a good legal pamphlet I got on the ordinance and ordinance code. I can send it to you too, actually. So,
All right.
I mean, this is just a question. In other words, we could add to this ordinance at the end of that, say that the class 1 or class 2 permit shall be stamped. That it requires a class 3 working connected.
I think that'd be a good idea.
okay.
So did I actually manage to say that the way we need to say it? I think you can just add it at the next, end of this sentence here. The class 1 or class 2 permit shall be stamped to notify, well, just shall be stamped to that
To
the
indicate.
class 3 permit is required before any connection may occur.
No, it's the requirement would be,
The requirement is that the sewer main has to be
has to be
constructed.
constructed, right, to serve the house, so. So will
I
add
would say-
language to that effect.
Expect that and a condition will be written on subject class 1 that the class 3 mainline be approved.
Right. So we'll
No,
do.
Yeah.
You're saying approved or connected, I mean, constructed.
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 Actually, either, I believe, because the point here is that we're issuing the permits at the same time, not necessarily, doing, we're not really changing when the class 1 is connecting to the line.
Right, but, as Chuck said, somebody could take the class 2, wave it in front of
Class
a
two.
potential buyer, class 1.
So we were trying to get this stamped, I thought, because that then they couldn't waive it, right?
Right.
Because when
There's a
they,
big stamp on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so on the stamp, it's gonna say, there's no main line currently constructed in front of the house. Until this main line is constructed, you will not be allowed to use this permit to connect, words to that effect.
Right.
If you don't mind, our permits have a blank section that say conditions that
Right,
we would.
perfect.
Literally type it in on the permit.
Perfect.
And it appears on every copy.
Okay, perfect.
so, we'll say shall be conditioned as follows, as we just discussed.
So you have the exact language, because I would assume that in order for us to adopt an ordinance tonight, we have to have the actual exact language. I'm not gonna try and write it down, we'll just go by your copy, but let's make sure we have it.
We don't have to have it exactly, but a class 1 or class 2 permit shall be conditioned to require approval and construction of the class 3 permit before discharge into the district's wastewater facilities.
Okay. Okay, do we have a motion?
I'll move that we adopt ordinance 167 as recently amended.
Second it.
So moved and seconded, any further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, any abstentions? The ordinance is adopted. Okay, item 2, consideration of approval of Class 3 mainline extension sewer permit to serve APN 048-023-350, 321 Cortez Avenue, Miramar. Owners, Bakshi. As part of the staff report, can you explain the sequencing here, exactly how we're gonna adopt this? Because this can't quite be approved until the ordinance 7-day period.
I would recommend approval of the Class 3 mainline extension to take effect at the end of the legally required public notice.
Actually, excuse me, Chuck. Typically, what we would do is we would approve the Class 3, and then I would not be able to administratively issue the Class 1 until the Class 3 line had been constructed and dedicated to the district. So really, we don't need to delay the Class 3. What the ordinance was allowing me to do was, if you would look at this as any other Class 3, and it would simply allow me the ability to issue the Class 1 when he has the notice, pickup notice. In other words, I'm not delayed of issuing the house permit, sewer permit, until this comes back to the board, the Class 3, for dedication to the district. So this part of this process is the same as it normally would be. Is that clear?
I stayed with you halfway through.
Typically, the Class 3 would, okay, let's just forget the ordinance. This would come before the board. I would issue, assuming it's approved, I would issue a Class 3 permit. The builder would take that permit, build his line. I would bring it back to the board for dedication to become a district facility, and then he would be able to go through the process of the Class 1.
Right.
Okay. So the process of the Class 3 itself is the same. The only change is that we're not waiting to issue the Class 1A.
But you have to wait for this ordinance to take effect before you can follow the new process.
Right, but I don't see how that affects the Class 3 necessarily.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yes,
Okay.
that's all I'm saying.
Yes. So it does, yeah,
So the Class 1, you just have to wait a week.
It's
Yeah,
really
it affects
affecting
the Class 1, which we're not
yes.
considering now, we're considering the
And he is
Class
still
3,
waiting
which is
for his pickup
unaffected.
notice as well, so, yeah.
So I'd recommend approval of the Class 3.
Thank you.
So this, I assume this is, the district engineer has reviewed and approved, okay. So, normally these are, the Class 3s are pretty routine approvals. So do we have a motion?
So the issue is more just the variance, which is why this is one of our
Is
variances.
the applicant present, and does the applicant want to speak?
Yes, so my name is Vic, because I appreciate all the good discussion around this whole issue. Just the one thing I was thinking of, as you guys come up with whatever your language will be for the future, something for you guys to consider, is taking into account the scenario that you brought up where it was a builder versus an individual building a single-family home, like we are for ourselves. A builder can get financing to do the entire build-out much simpler than an individual building their own single-family home.
It was a builder who built one house at a time. He bought a property, built a house, sold it, bought the next property, built a house, and sold it.
Still, that's an investor versus somebody who's building a house for themselves. So there is a difference. They're not building multiple units. But I appreciate the discussion around it. Just what I wanted to add was we're really looking forward to moving here. And I want to do everything that you guys require as part of your approval process. Anything that you guys can do to simplify that for an individual who's looking to move his entire family here would be great. So when we first started scoping out this particular lot, I understood the variance issue, but there wasn't a lot of information available about the Class 3. Otherwise, I would have gone through the Class 3 application to begin with. So if there's any way of streamlining that, putting a notice up front, that would be great. And if there's any way you can avoid delaying the build by making the Class 3 permit ready to go, so that they can get the approval, they can apply for the financing, they can have a contingent Class 1 approval for them to be picked up, it would be great. I mean, that would really help out the people that are trying to build an individual home that's going to really impact their family. So I appreciate all the content and discussion, so I'm looking forward to getting all this thing done so we can move forward.
What I believe this ordinance change does is it allows the Class 3 construction and the house construction to go in parallel instead of sequentially.
Right.
So that's the
And that's-
streamlining you're looking for.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
If I could just add one more thing that Mr. Bakshi said, is that you would want to go through the variance approval prior to the class 3, because you don't want to build a line
Sure.
that you can't serve.
Exactly. No,
So I just wanted to emphasize.
No, I just, I'm new to the whole process, so it is an educational experience. And like I said, I appreciate all the feedback that you guys provided, but anything that can be done to streamline that process would be great.
I was just gonna say, I should cover the microphone, but it
Yeah.
sounds like he's finished, so.
I forgot this time. Yeah, it is important to come to the microphone, because otherwise, people watching this later on video they may or may not hear you. Cameraman seems to be indicating that it worked this time.
Thank you. Okay, very good.
So, any further discussion or a motion?
I move for approval of the Class 3 extension permit.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Oh, and he did have a speaker slip here. Okay. All right, item 3, consideration. I thought I heard somebody say something about variance. Not on here. Okay.
That sheet had a variance.
Oh, that was already done.
Yeah.
All right.
So
Item-
can we hop to 3B first? So
Item 3, consideration of LAFCO application for potential reorganization into community services district of Parks and Recreation powers. Jack?
Jonathan.
So, we've been working with the Farm Bureau, with Louis Ficoni, over the months, and we now have what I hope is the final version of 2 documents. One is the memorandum of understanding, which your board approved all of these documents on October 17th.
I didn't approve the font size, though.
No. That's what happens when you have changes and it turns out that
It was actually
ridiculous.
the PDF, so we couldn't change it.
Yeah, thank you, Chuck. Anyway, so the 2 documents are the memorandum of understanding, which also includes as Exhibit B, the mitigation measures that are, that have been added to the LAFCO application. And the other document is the board pursuant to that MOU is adopting a district policy on the acquisition and use of agricultural land for park and recreation purposes. So I got from Louis Ficoni now a couple of changes that the Farm Bureau would like. And so hopefully you have in front of you a redlined version. And the way to tell that on the memorandum of understanding is the very first whereas has a red line in it. And it says not opposing. And it's in red.
I don't know, it's too small, I can't read it.
Yeah, it says that, so it says.
In key colors.
Yes.
So that is one of the changes the Farm Bureau wanted is that
That's this one.
they do not want to go on record as taking a position either way on our application, and I think probably in general. So it used to say, that they would be supporting or some language to that effect, and now it's just saying not opposing. So I just want to walk through the changes. On page 3, paragraph 3 of the MOU is saying this again in a way. It's saying the San Mateo County Farm Bureau takes no position on the Granada Sanitary District's proposed reorganization, except that it has determined that based upon the specific terms and conditions of this MOU, being incorporated as a condition of approval of LAFCO's approval of the district's application, and a confirmation by affirmative vote of the electorate, this MOU will help protect agriculture's physical and economic integrity in the county, and that the limitation of the district's power of eminent domain by ordinance is a key component that will further protect agricultural lands from being removed from production. Some of that was already in there, but I just thought I would read the whole thing, and that's the revised version. And now on paragraph 4, then it says, this Farm Bureau requests that LAFCO consider the district's application as amended by this MOU. I skipped a few words there, but that's the main changes. Then, if you keep going back, you go past the ordinance that we adopted on October 17th about the eminent domain restrictions. And you get to Exhibit B, which is page 7 of this MOU document.
There's actually a trivial problem on page 6. There needs to be a comma after Loman.
I guess.
I'm the comma police. I fine
Yeah,
people
but
for
that's,
leaving out.
that's actually debatable too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna
We've
say,
talked
it's
about it.
nice
We're not
to
gonna
say
debate
that.
it tonight, though.
And actually, we've already adopted it, it's already
Acceptable.
signed by you, as well as.
Moving on.
But Jonathan, that's in the red line thing, which means that's changed, right?
What I did was.
Okay,
No,
okay.
it's added because we took the vote, so.
Oh,
But it is, actually, I will say it's possible that the version you signed did not have or had the comma. I don't know.
here's the rule of thumb I use. If you take out the word and the sentence doesn't work, then there has to be a comma in front of and.
Okay, well, anyway, I'm going to move on to Exhibit B, which is on page 7.
It's not,
And
that's
so,
that's not
on-
the way it works, Leonard.
On page 7, you see mitigation measure number 2.5.
Yes.
And at the very end of that, so that's talking about various mitigation measures that we're agreeing to, and it's talking about trails through agricultural land and activities adjacent to agricultural land. And the last sentence says, "The agricultural activities and agricultural potential of traversed lands shall be protected and buffered from trail user impacts by means of distance, physical barriers, parentheses, i.e. sturdy fences, or other non-disruptive methods, in parentheses." And the Farm Bureau wanted us to add, "provided by the district." That was always intended, but it's just to make it clear that the farmer doesn't have to provide those types of protection.
I have a question that would be on the farmland or on the district land?
That would be on the district, either land or easements or whatever we got.
Because if it was actually on the farmland, I would suggest that the district should pay for it, but leave it to the property owner to choose exactly how it's done.
Well, the Farm Bureau does not want to have it on farmland unless, I guess, the farmer agrees, which would be an easement. But I think normally they, and Louis can speak to this if he has some thoughts about this, but normally it's going to be on land that is owned by the district or somehow an easement is acquired from somebody. And the main point here is that it's not going to be the farmer that has to pay for that.
Right.
For the fencing and the like. On page 8, near the top, there's a sentence in the first, it's the first complete sentence on that page. "While trails that bisect grazing lands would not be likely to fragment grazing operations, trails that bisect cultivated crops could adversely affect the vitality of agricultural operations and will be avoided."
What's the change?
It used to say should be avoided,
Okay.
so wanting it more enforceable, which is understandable. And then on that same page, after the paragraph that has the A, B, C, D, E, F, G, which is about buffers, it says, "All buffers shall be developed in consultation with the owners and operators of adjoining agricultural lands," and what's been added, "and the San Mateo County Farm Bureau." So they want us to, we've already agreed to consult with them about, going forward in terms of parklands and so forth, but that, this is the buffer part, they want it specifically. So that's that on the MOU, and those very same changes then I have made to the district's agricultural land policy,
Is that
which
this?
is the next, yes, that document that you're holding, called Granada Sanitary District Policies on the Acquisition and Use of Agricultural Land for Park and Recreation Purposes. So if you see page 2, you'll see that provided by the district language, and on page 3, you'll see the should become a will, and the addition of San Mateo County Farm Bureau as somebody that we would consult about buffering. So good, because our policy basically mirrors the MOU.
Well, I would say that all these changes seem perfectly reasonable.
What kind of a motion do you need?
Well, first of all, I think we need to see if Louis has said, did I get that right? And,
Yeah, do you want me to put the?
Yeah, if you would, and then I don't know if you had a speaker slip?
Uh,
No, that's actually for the whole subject.
Do you want me to fill out a speaker?
It's up to staff, I think we know who you are.
Louis Fagoni, Miramar. I have one question, this is probably for Jonathan, and it's on the first page. It's probably, doesn't mean anything, it just came, the fourth sentence down.
Which of the two documents? You said
Pardon
the
me?
first page, but which of the two?
Of the MOU, where it says, where is the Farm Bureau, and at the last line says, on the San Mateo coast, should it say San Mateo County coast, or are we fine with San Mateo coast?
Since
I'm fine with it the way it is.
Since I tend to be a purist, I think it should say San Mateo County coast.
Yes, because it says it that way in other coast places here.
So let's
Yeah.
make that change.
Yeah.
That's the only thing. Otherwise, everything looks pretty good.
Are you trying to displace me in the nitpicking department?
I'd have to work pretty hard to get
Took one away from me, Louis.
Yeah, but I'm over here.
Okay.
Other than that, it seems good. I mean, Jonathan and I have been working back and forth almost daily, it seems. We just want to get it right, because we don't want to be down the road sometime and find a bump in the road here.
Yeah, that's good.
And I just want to say it's been really good to work with Louis too.
And John Gamper.
And John Gamper, yeah.
Yes.
So it's been a good process.
John Gamper is legal land use attorney for Farm Bureau up in Sacramento.
And I think it's probably safe to say that we also appreciate you working with us to get this done in a mutually acceptable forum.
Yeah, I mean, we get more done that way.
So we need a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding and as revised, and also the district agricultural land policy as revised.
So moved.
Want to get some seconds?
Oh, a second.
Get your name on there a couple more times.
Okay, I don't know who got the second. I
I
actually
did.
think.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah.
All right. Hearing no further discussion, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Can you send me clean PDF versions of these, and I'll put them on the CSD page?
Yes. So it might be a segue back to Chuck to say that we will be, for the rest of the staff report, but we will be providing this to the LAFCO executive officer, so that she has a final version. Louis, we need to get it signed too. So we'll have to get RN signed, and then we'll get it to you. Okay?
The interesting thing is that in most of what the LAFCO executive director puts out, when we have it online, she just points everybody to our copy. It's probably easier for her to do that than to get her web person to post it. All right, so we have A and C on here.
Okay, let me provide a report on what's happened since our last meeting and what Jonathan backfilled, because he has much better notes than I did on the meeting last night, because I was trying to stay focused on what was happening.
Last night, or you mean
Last night.
afternoon? Right?
Oh,
Oh.
afternoon.
Okay.
Well, you got the nitpicking
Taking
title
back
right
his
back,
role.
don't you?
I just wanted to make sure it wasn't another meeting.
Another meeting that
Crowned
went
for
out,
about a
you didn't
minute and a
know
half,
about.
Louis.
Money wasn't invited.
I just wanted to make sure it wasn't another meeting I didn't know about.
Well, they all run together at some point in time. So prior to that meeting last week, I had sent the letter you see included here to LAFCO, kind of addressing some issues that were raised at the public meetings and whatnot. And then I also sent a letter to the city of Half Moon Bay, basically saying, please consider our application and a letter of support for it. Subsequent to that letter being sent, I spoke with Alex, the city staff from Half Moon Bay, and he told me they had a letter of, not a letter of support, but a comment letter.
It was a letter of no opposition with conditions.
Right, that's a good way to put it. And And, you know, the conditions were basically, they thought they wanted to see more specifics in the project selection, which I kind of feel, you know, none of their business to some extent, but there was also issues with the property tax and that kind of thing, which I
Yeah.
think is an issue. And so that was on consent calendar. The day of the council meeting, it got pulled from consent, and they added a few other conditions to the letter.
No, they rewrote the letter.
Okay, they rewrote a broad portion of the letter, and that was a letter submitted to LAFCO eventually. And it
Which
wasn't as-
explicitly opposes the
Right.
reorg.
Which wasn't as nice as the first one. So they changed the kind of neutral to oppose to resolve these issues. So it came at the last minute. You know, if I had known, I actually tried to fly up here and just couldn't get a flight fast enough. But at the LAFCO meeting, I would guess there were maybe 25 people in the audience. Something, I counted 15, and a couple of people came in after the hearing started. So staff, Martha Briantis gave her staff report. It was generally, I won't call it favorable, but more favorable than 2005, I would think. And her staff recommendation was to have the hearing that day and then continue it to a future meeting, either December or January.
But now, well, since Jonathan was there on the last council, they didn't continue it, they closed the public hearing. What does that do?
Well, first of all, they can always reopen it, but at the beginning, they said they were going to reopen it, so.
Yeah, but then the chair asked for a motion to close the public hearing. They
Yeah, I
closed
noticed
it.
that. They didn't adjourn it to a future
and
meeting.
were you looking at Martha when they did that? Yeah, she was like,
So, to start it off, so I provided Leonard with some, you know, an outline of the talking points, and he got up and made a presentation, did a very good job, by the way, on behalf of the district, saying, here's why we think this is needed, you know, everyone agrees parks are needed, that kind of thing. And then he sat down, and then
well,
Don Horst,
I also had, in addition to the page that Chuck provided, I also had a page of extracts from the Little Hoover Commission report that was done in 1999 titled something like Special Districts,
relics of the past.
Relics of the Past, or
something
for the future. And it's a really good report. Maybe I should put that up on our website also, since it's somehow relevant. Yeah, I did pick out a number of on-topic excerpts from that support our approach rather than the approach that other people have tried to push.
So, Don Horsley then opened it up to public comment, and I'll guess they had 12 or 15 speakers, some in support, some opposed, some more neutral than anything. They read a couple letters into the record. They're not verbatim, but the gist of them. Jim Larimer had a letter in there. Joel Farmstein had a letter.
I couldn't read Jim
in.
Larimer's letter. The font
Okay.
size was too small.
So they took testimony from members of the public, and then they closed the public hearing portion of it, and then they had a commission discussion. At that point in time, I got up to the podium and answered the questions they had. The questions were generally, I'd say, there was the majority of them concerned the budget and the transfer of property tax allocation, and you know, I'm not sure how much they could understand from that, so I'm going to try and make that a little more clear. But we had a back and forth about how we're going to allocate it. We had a discussion about the allocation between us and Half Moon Bay, because that was obviously an issue, and I explained to them we're just doing whatever is fairest for both sets of ratepayers, and I think that can be worked out. They had, a couple of the commissioners wanted to see more detail in the projects, which is the thing we've been fighting the whole time. And so I got up there and I explained, we can't provide more detail because we're not a Parks and Recs commission. I don't know what a future board will do. And they said, oh, I understand, but we want more detail. So I'm going to have to find a way to get more detail somehow. And I spoke with Martha today about that, about how, and she's been very helpful with this process because I'm struggling with this. You know, we can't we're not picking a project, but you want more detail on a project I haven't picked. So I'm struggling with that one a little bit. So.
And you know, on top of that, there's another issue, which is we can put anything in there, and you know, whoever's on the board at some point in the future isn't bound by that, and it can be a different project anyway. So it's like, what's the point of specifying the projects at that level?
Yeah, and I think, and what I'm gonna try and do over the course of the next month is talk to some Parks and Recs districts and just talk to them about their operations and things like that, and maybe talk more about that, of once we're up and running, here's how these things operate, here's what our stuff will look like. So I've got some names already for that. So, I mean, we have to address these concerns, even though they're not direct, they're difficult to do, if you will, because the application's not set up that way. We've got to address the concerns because they're real concerns. So, so I thought, overall, I thought it went relatively well. They seemed to be engaged in the process. It didn't seem to be a negative, no way. Like I said, it's vastly different than our previous hearing 8 years ago.
Also, a lot of new faces on LAFCO now.
Right.
I think that only 2 of the ones that were there in 2004 were there.
Well, it's what I kept saying, maybe wrongly now, but the Half Moon Bay, let's not say they're set in stone, because they've turned over the council 4 times since our last application, So that's kind of the gist of the meeting. Like I said, my general sense was, and I think Jonathan got the same sense, that, it went well and they're open to this, and hopefully the next month we can get in front of these issues, and I've got to write another letter to Martha and adjust the budget a couple ways so they can understand it.
What was the date they reserved for the special meeting in December?
The 18th.
December 18th, 2:30
So
PM.
it's the day before our meeting again. So,
No?
Maybe I could use that to segue to, I have 2 things I want to say. And I'll take this one first, is that we don't have another regular meeting scheduled before the next LAFCO meeting. And so on our agenda tonight, as has been in the past, is the opportunity for the board to give direction to your general manager to take whatever steps are necessary in his judgment to process, move along the LAFCO application. And so I'm going to recommend at the end of this, after you've heard from the public and talked it over yourselves, that you do authorize your general manager to take the steps that are needed to respond to the questions that different commissioners raised, and Martha Boyadas told us today some things that she would like to see addressed, et cetera. So
you're saying the authorization that we've done to that effect in the past is expired?
no, I'm saying that we now have some more specifics, and I'm actually going to want to go through those before we start talking and before the public speaks, so that everybody knows what we should be talking about here and what authorization you're giving to your general manager if you decide to take that approach. But, and I'll go through my list first, but I cannot resist in today's evening of nitpicking. I'm going to quibble with the statement that Half Moon Bay opposed us. They say, we do not support the current attempt. That's not opposition.
Okay,
not
that's a
supporting.
razor thin line.
So that's my little nitpick for tonight. Okay, so the subjects that I think that our general manager is going to have to address in a letter, and maybe some other things to the LAFCO executive officer before the next meeting, are, it's back to this subject about specifics. But one subset of that is because there are letters that say that we're just trying to find a way to get more open space versus recreation, particularly active recreation. And I did look in our application, and somebody, I think, mentioned open space and wetlands at the hearing the other day.
That was in Larimer's letter, I think, and I don't understand where that wetlands came
Well,
from.
so I searched for the words open space and the word wetlands, and in both cases, we are not proposing anything about open space or wetlands. Those words do show up because LAFCO has a question. Is there any agricultural land or any wetlands in your district?
Yep.
And we said, yes, there's agricultural land and wetlands in our district, and that's all we said, period. And the words open space show up in the context of, is there any open space, what are the land uses adjacent to your district? And we have a lot of open space land, so we said that. And then we mentioned Mid-Peninsula Regional Open Space District, so the words open space show up there. But when we talk about what we're going to do, we do talk about the Burnham Strip, and trails, and the the boulevards and picnic tables, and talk about working with the school districts on the fields, and Half Moon Bay on programs, et cetera. But Chuck is gonna have to address as best he can, what kinds of things anyway we would be considering doing as a CSD with Parks and Recreation powers. So that's a subject. Let me just get through the list and then
Okay.
you guys can back through this. So Chuck's already mentioned sewer rates and the budget, and those were the two things that we heard from Martha today as the primary things that have to be addressed. There's the subject of the RCD wanting a MOU, kind of like the Farm Bureau has. And I mean, it's basically the same thing. I mean, the Farm Bureau has kind of done this, I think. So, but, you know, we can either wait and have that be imposed as a condition, which it sounds like we might happen because that's what RCD wants. Or we could proactively get out there and talk to RCD and say, are you satisfied with what we have with the Farm Bureau? And they also don't want to lose any of their property tax. If we were to acquire a piece of property, they then will lose what taxes they get, which is a very small amount, as everybody acknowledges. But
I actually did this calculation today.
what'd you come up with?
Well, the assessed valuation of all the property in the district is $1.5 billion. RCD gets $58,000 a year in property tax. So if I went and purchased $5 million of land, they'd lose $200.
And aside from
So
that.
not a heck of a lot of money.
Aside from that, I understand from the RCD meeting that Gail and I went to, that they only get property tax from rural lands. So that's, you know, primarily outside the urban-rural boundary, which will be outside our service district and outside our district. And so any land that we acquire is not gonna be funding RCD in the first place, and so it's kind of an academic exercise.
But
So
this
that's-
this may be something that we just,
It's clearly a lesser item.
We've
than
gotta
it
do.
was. Yeah, but we might
Just
have
something to put in
Yeah.
so that you
If-
have,
if-
you don't
If we
want
can go
to.
ahead and do the
Yeah.
MOU ahead of time and just
Yeah.
agree to all, it's.
And I think
have
they
no
review
problem.
them too with that in mind so that they're not left out, and another one that might.
I'd rather
impact
see
them
us
more.
do it in advance
Doesn't
rather than
skip
try to
them.
write something in on the last
Yeah.
day.
yeah.
Looks
So
like
so
what we
let
made
me get
done.
through the
Let's get
list
done
here,
up
and then
front.
you guys can see what the public
You
says.
wanna hold on
and then-
till,
So I'm almost through with the list, and one thing that was on the list right at the end, Supervisor Horsley asked for us to reach out one more time on consolidation with NWSD. So that's the thing, certainly have some thoughts on that. But that's pretty much it, other than Martha is actually going to reach out to the school district, because we've tried. I think we may try again, but that's up to Chuck and what you wanted to do. I
well,
think
one of
pretty
the
much it.
school board members was there and actively spoke against it.
Who was that?
Um, Name names and I'll tell you which one it was.
It was Reno?
Yeah, yeah.
So
I know that, he didn't identify himself as the school board.
Oh, yeah, he did. Yeah.
Was he speaking on behalf of the school board?
No, but
Okay,
he.
well,
he
that's
certainly-
what I meant, right.
Yeah, he certainly identified his position on the school board.
The last thing I'm just going to mention is that, because when we were talking with Martha about this, back to this more specifics, is that there is mention of a tot lot in there, because we have a tot lot, and not we have, but I know that there's a tot lot at Quarry Park, and that's kind of, one of the commissioners said, you know, hardscape recreation. I don't know if this is hardscape, but it's closer to it than some other things might be. So I'm just trying to help us brainstorm, because if you can think of things, I heard people talk about park horses yesterday. I heard people talk about pocket parks, those kind of things.
Yeah.
So, you know, just, I would encourage you to try to think of things that would help Chuck write this letter, if they are things that you think are valuable and think that we might do anyway.
Well,
So I think
there
that's it.
there does
That's
seem to
the
be a
end of my
lot of support from the few people we've heard from for the park course. So, you know, it's something that we might want to say, it's been requested, and we'll take a hard look at doing that.
Well, I'm going to encourage you
Yeah.
to either finish with your staff and then see if, I think you have a speaker slip and see
Well,
if anybody else wants to.
Actually,
talk,
there
and then
aren't
you
more
bring it
speakers,
back.
but Louis looked like he really had something to add to something you were saying.
Yes, I just want to address the RCD. I served 23 years as a board member for RCD, so a lot of the tax base is, all of Lindemar is in the RCD district, and also quite a bit of Daly City, so it's not just rural lands. It's because the district was formed prior to any of the developments. But as far as losing any tax money from the small district that you guys would be encompassing, it would be very minimal to them. And I don't know, I can't speak for Kellex, but I was under the impression that she wanted the MOU to work with you guys, that they would receive the tax dollars that they would lose if you took the, created parklands on the district, within their district.
Yeah, that's what, was to,
Is
yeah,
that- that's
was to
what-
do that and to also
Both MOUs, one about the.
work with them if
The
we had
land.
any resource conservation issues,
Right.
things like that, so. yeah.
That's all. I just wanted to clarify that on the tax
Thanks.
base.
Thank you.
Yeah, so if it really is the tiny amount that Chuck computed, it's like, we're not even gonna take a second look at it, right? It's like, okay, fine.
Well, yeah, and if it's important to one of the commissioners,
Yeah.
it's important to us.
But in some sense, I don't know about from Kellex's point of view, but from my point of view here, I would say it's more symbolic than anything else.
Yeah, well, that's why I did the calculation, because,
I mean, it'll cost us as much to
More
cut
to
the check
draft
as
it.
the check is.
I know.
So I would suggest that you add in, we will actively look for some suitable location, not anywhere near Quarry Park, for one or more additional tot lots.
Well, I talked with Mark. Okay.
Speakers first.
David?
Okay. Yeah, I think in light of this discussion, I think, yeah, to me, it seems like the whole onus is on Mr. Duffy to put together the plan. I think there's going to be enough work in terms of interpreting what needs to be done. To me, I think that it's essential that we, I think in terms of presenting something for the 18th meeting, and then even going forward, to have a community task force that could do a lot of the legwork in terms of recommendations and narrowing things down, so that it could be interpreted and compared against other CSDs. I think that would be incredibly helpful. Otherwise, we're putting the whole onus on somebody that doesn't even live here to put together. It's a lot of work. I think that a community task force would be hugely helpful. I think other ideas too that I'm thinking about. I think that to me, the biggest benefit of the CSD isn't necessarily an acquisition of land, which affects budget issues, but I think the strips, since they're already existing, is some type of streamlined approval process for community farms or beautification. There's enough people in the community that are passionate about beautifying the area, that if there's a streamlined way to improve the medians and do things like that, to me, that's where a CSD could be most efficient in terms of limiting, not constraining our own financial resources from the sewer board, but really just essential clerical, paperwork that we already have a staff for that could essentially, streamline, basically a community-based effort to improve the medians without necessarily, affecting budgetary issues, minimally. So I think that's something specific. I'd like to find out more information. If GSD did become a CSD, would they have the power to approve different types of streamlined permits so that people could improve the different medians around El Granada? And then, I think considering that this is the last meeting before the LAFCO meeting on the 18th, I think it's as far as momentum and everything else that needs to get done, I think it's just way too much to ask of one person to have the whole brunt of this when we have so many people in the community that are passionate about parks, and I think it contribute a great deal in terms of putting something together that, and I think even from support too, I think from a support initiative, I think it's definitely would be great to have people behind it from the beginning, in terms of the design and input, and, and so that would be my recommendation that I think, that I would like to help out with, or at least, see it happen. So that's my comment.
Could I say something,
Yeah.
please? A lot of this work has already been done. As we know, there have been many, many surveys that have been done. The county spent quite a bit of time surveying people to see what the needs are and getting ideas from people. And those documents exist. We don't have to make anything up. And the second, there are groups like Midcoast Parklands, for example, organizations that exist right now that we communicate with. We don't have to make something up or create something new. The county has a task force of people right now or have done that in the past. So again, I don't think it's something that has to be done from scratch here. I think all these documents are available. I know Chuck's seen them and he has many of them. So it's a case of selecting from those as examples of the type of thing that could be done or might be done.
And that's what I'm gonna be doing, Gary, right?
Yeah, and
All
you can
this
talk
stuff
to me and
has
talk to
been
Jim.
done.
We know a
Right.
lot about that.
So I'll draft a letter and
Yeah.
I'll run it by.
Okay, great,
You know,
great.
you can see what's happening.
Yeah, it's like, also tell you, we did, one of our proposals was, kind of follows what you're saying, is adopt a medium, like adopt a highway, where
Yeah.
we would actually encourage neighborhoods on that street to say, okay, we're gonna take care of this one. So the whole intent is to do that. And also, we have all these other documents, but I would encourage, if you can organize a group of any amount of people and just show up at the meeting and say, hey, we're a local community group, we support this, and here's all our ideas. You don't have to do it from us or take our stuff.
In terms of the independent presentations.
If you're doing something in addition, that's hugely encouraged from us. Just grab your group and show up and say, hey, here's some of our ideas.
Yeah.
They don't, because we can't approve anything yet,
Yeah,
obviously.
absolutely.
So just say, hey, we got these 10 ideas.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That'd be a great thing to do.
And that'd also help with us, the vote in June. If we had the vote coming up, obviously having community support, people
Yeah.
buying into all of that's a grassroots effort. So it would really help.
Yeah, and that's where I see it, I think, because it's frustrating, the constraints, but it's gonna be that way until it's approved, so at least there's a way to make headway and move that.
Is he getting picked up on the camera?
Okay, it's pretty close.
Okay.
Okay. I do need to say one thing real quick about the median strip stuff. They're owned by the county, and we'd have to go to county public works and do
Oh,
something like
medians,
ask
yeah,
for some
yeah,
sort of,
yeah.
master permit that allows us to go out and do stuff there, subject to us getting planning
Well, I
department.
was laughing because one of my CSDs down south is a landscape maintenance district, and what we maintain is the county road right of way.
Interesting.
20/20 hindsight. I'd have asked for those powers too.
So maybe we should have.
Too late now.
But
There's always a future though.
I think, in terms of the medians, though, the Parks Authority should cover it sufficiently. Because is there much that a landscape and lighting district can do that a Parks and Rec district can't do?
No idea.
Probably not, I would guess.
Well, it's the right to landscape the median though, that's implicit in the landscape
Yeah.
maintenance agreement.
And also, excuse me.
Powers, but not the Parks and Rec's powers.
Leonard, don't forget too, they're not all the same. In other words, you've got the traffic circles at the end of some, and you have a lot of things like that. They're not all the same.
Yeah.
What kind of motion do you need or anything, other than do everything we talked about?
Jonathan, any suggestions? I think we've discussed it, I know the direction of the boards, I'm not sure any.
You've taken
any
notes,
motions,
so-
I
if my
think it
legal
would be
guy
good
tells me.
to have a motion that authorizes and directs your general manager to respond to all of the questions that were raised by commissioners and by LAFCO staff in timely manner for the December 18th meeting.
I will
And-
so
And
move.
can we also say, and respond as appropriate to issues brought up by the Half Moon Bay letter and members of the public?
Well, that was included in his original, yeah.
Well, I actually didn't specifically say that, and I
I
think it
thought it
would
was
be
the
good
public, oh, okay.
to add your language.
So respond
that's-
as appropriate.
Yeah. So, so that's the motion. Or-
Is there a second to that?
Oh, I'll say. Sorry.
You can make the next motion.
Any further discussion? Is everybody clear on what the
Well,
motion
actually,
is?
before you vote on that, I mean, Chuck, do you have a sense of what directions you have gotten? I mean, let me just take the RCD thing. I guess what I thought I was hearing is that they do want you to, maybe even working with us, and if Louis got any connections left with the RCD, to try to, proactively deal with that. Was that the consensus of that?
Yeah.
Yes, yes. No harm in doing that. I don't think.
I'd rather see the MOU done ahead of time, so it's just, rather than them try to wing something, who
No,
knows what's
that
gonna
won't
happen
work.
then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that won't work.
I have one question. Why do you think that the city changed the letter so dramatically?
I
Because-
don't know, and I tried to get that answer and was not successful.
Okay.
I mean,
When I
my,
talked to Alan and Rick prior, and this is 2 years ago, and we were talking about SAM issues, and
Mhm.
kind of said, we've got an issue with property tax, but other than that, that's what I said to Rick Lohman about the fire board. I like their letter the best. It's none of our business. Go do what you do. We don't have any effect, so that's it.
Well, I need to watch the video of the Half Moon Bay City Council meeting, and then I'll let you know. It happens, they pulled off consent and added it to the end of the agenda, so it's like the last 10 minutes of the meeting, and due to technical difficulties, well, first of all, they didn't run it live because they had technical difficulties down there, and then I recorded it this morning and wasn't able to watch it because I ended up on the phone to TiVo for 3 hours. But I will watch it, at least that last 10 minutes tonight, and I'll let you know how that discussion went.
So, yeah, and so Alex had drafted a staff report and placed it on consent, which to me is weird because it's not a consent agenda item in my view, but that's where they had it. So, and he told me, he said, here it is, but, I'm not the politician, so they can do what they want, obviously, like all of you can, so that's what they did.
I just want to make sure it's clear, one other thing is clear, President Warren asked earlier about the prior authorizations we've given to our general manager to take actions to further the CSD application process. That still remains in effect. And, for example, I anticipate from conversations I've had with Chuck that he will be contacting the city of Half Moon Bay and their staff and trying to work with them on that, and that's covered by that. I just wanted a specific motion so that when Chuck submits this letter addressing what came up at the LAFCO meeting, that there's no question that he's speaking at the direction of the board. So when you vote on that motion, that will happen. But the other motion remains in effect, and he'll be doing other things and answering other questions as he has all along about,
The 2 letters I wrote last week
Yeah.
without
Okay.
authorization.
Can you?
Who made the motion in second?
I lost
Rick
track.
and Gail.
Oh, I made the motion.
Um,
Oh, Rick made it. We shared it.
I'll let Gail have full
So
responsibility.
Gail made the motion.
If you say so.
Sounds like the
Who was
makers
the
of the
second?
motion and the seconder have
Okay.
decided to agree that.
Gail Erickson, Rick Lohman.
Can you send that out to all of us a little bit before you send it off to Martha?
What's that?
The letter that you're going to
Okay.
be preparing?
All right.
And I'm just going to also encourage any one of you who wants to,
If you have park project
yeah,
input,
exactly.
that kind of stuff, send it on over to me. I mean,
Okay.
You
And since
guys
we have
live
our-
here, you've got more
Where do
ideas,
we
you've been
begin?
more intimately involved in it than I have. I've done the staff workload, but you guys know the community better.
I don't know if you all remember that there was a list in the 2007 county study of specific things that should happen.
That's
All
what
of
I
those,
thought, yeah.
okay, all of those are in our application.
And by the way, so is the Farallone School site.
Yeah, I meant to ask you, how'd that get in
I've got
our,
hammered on that twice now, once at the school
That's it?
district and once at the.
since it came up at the LAFCO meeting, can you explain here how that ended up in there?
It's because, I hate to I don't really hate to throw Ryan under the bus, but he added that section, and he doesn't know Farallone's not in the district any more than, I don't know that
Oh, so we're
Farallone's
gonna-
not in the district.
All right, so we're gonna chalk it up to editing error.
Right, or lack of good board member review.
What's your anniversary date?
Not soon enough. And it's January 2014.
So.
Can I just say one quick thing?
Has it been voted on, or did you want to?
Just before we do that, I think it should be obvious to the audience that if you listen to the election debates and public meetings we had, there are certain people in the community who could care less about parks. They just want us to fail. And they will work very hard and do everything they can to make this project fail. So what we need from the public is people who actually care about our community and care about parks in our community and how they can benefit and improve the values in our community. We would like these people to also stand up, because the people who oppose us for personal reasons are very loud and are seen and visible. And the public should also help now to move this through LAFCO and move it toward a democratic vote next year, because these folks are trying to block you, the public, from voting on your own parks. So I would encourage you to get out there and write letters to LAFCO. We can provide addresses and help still these voices out there who are the same people who will always oppose us. And it's not the public, and we need to let LAFCO know it's not the public. Thank you.
All right.
So there's a motion
So
on the
you
table.
Want to call the vote?
Any further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. By the way, I've been now and then talking one-on-one to people in the community ever since I first brought this suggestion to the board, which, for those who don't remember, July of 2000 is when I first proposed to the district board that we do this reorg. And I've been talking to people on and off since then, and when I explain to people one-on-one what the concept is, virtually everyone, you know, there have been some exceptions, but they're notable for other reasons. But in general, the vast majority of people that I've spoken to one-on-one support the idea. So, you know, we just need to make sure that they show up at a polling place and say
And
so.
Fran and Lenny, thank you, circulated a petition yesterday, I guess, and got something like 300 signatures. So, you know,
I think
even moving that forward, if you guys are in contact with them or someone wants to start a signature petition drive, you know, time like the present, 18th is the date.
By the way, only Rick, Matthew, and myself on this board since 2001 have not come from the MPL board. I think all other directors, starting in 2001,
That's funny. That's
come from the
interesting.
MPL board. Because, you know, when we need somebody, that's where we go look to recruit. And it's worked pretty well. You know, we've gotten a number of good directors that we recruited off the MPL board. So, are we finished with
Yes.
item 3? Okay.
I had a,
We're not.
actually, no. I had a thought that our next meeting is the day after LAFCO. And I have a personal reason I'd like to do this too. Maybe we should move our meeting, our December meeting up a week. And so we have a status report and a sort of gathering of the forces before the LAFCO meeting.
The site designer review now meets in this room?
Yeah, that's at 5 o'clock, I think.
Yeah.
There's nowhere else to meet.
They used to meet at the sheriff's substation.
Yeah. And my personal reason is I won't be here the 19th.
Well, gee, I hope my calendar is clear for that. Does that work for staff?
Works for me.
Does it work for Everybody else?
I don't see any reason why not.
I think it's a potentially critical meeting that we do this rather than, cancel December's meeting like we often do because things get really quiet. I think this is a time where
Not as quiet.
we may need
Yeah.
some reorg stuff, so
Yeah.
to speak, and to fine tune and get some more last minute things done while we have time, because you may not get another chance after the 18th.
All right, so are we, it sounds like we're in agreement, so we're going to set this as,
You might want to ask your
12th.
elected
Right.
board member. newly
that's
elected,
true.
that
So,
We also have
in terms of rounding up someone to do the oath of office, now I have to.
We have determined that the district secretary can, or somebody else.
Yeah, but I usually look for a big name, and I have someone
Okay.
who's said that he'll do it if he's available, and I have to contact his scheduler.
I
But
can always do it.
I thought you were talking about Chuck, right? Big name?
No.
no, he's only got 2 5-syllable names, 5-letter names.
More hints. Is this a teaser to get people to show up for the swearing in?
Once, I think it was Fran and Matthew, Fran got Anna Eshu. And the two of them got flags that had flown over the Capitol, but then 2 years later, I couldn't get Anna Eshu, so I didn't get a flag.
So maybe you can get Anna Eshoo again.
I should call Fran and see if she can get Anna Eshu. Or Jackie Spear. Fran has,
Well, Jackie's
Past
around,
history
you
of
know,
both of them.
she's doing some things right, not locally. I think this weekend she's in,
yeah, but it has to be on that particular date.
but I'm saying you might want to do it there.
We've convincingly left the topic.
Yeah, okay, so we are agreed that we will cancel the December 19th regular meeting and schedule in its place a special meeting on December 12th. Okay, now can we move on? Item 4, consideration of a resolution directing making of amended non-contingent assessment RE certain such reassessments under resolution of intention number 2003-008. So Jerry Lester lives.
Louis, you're blocking the camera.
Oh, he's a star.
You're blocking the camera. You're hogging the shot.
Thanks, Lou. And as I say every year, this is a routine
Yes.
item.
This is where we amend the assessments based on parcel splits or merges the prior year.
Well, I describe it as we make the assessment district catch up to changes that the county has already approved.
Okay.
In other words, this is ministerial.
Is what?
Ministerial, it means we don't have much choice, we have to do it. So is there a
I
motion?
move that we adopt the resolution.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Item 5, consideration of report and ongoing issues by district's sewer authority mid-coastside representatives. Matthew?
Well, let's see. The October meeting. I thought the most interesting thing that happened at the October meeting was that the board had to approve increases in budget for add-ons to the budget for the Granada Force Main Repair Project and for the digester cleaning project. They weren't really, in the scheme of things, significant amounts, but they had basically already been, the change orders had already been written and signed and approved, and it was brought to the board to rubber stamp, having already been essentially done. And then that reverberates into the meeting we just had this last Monday, when the issue came up about the SAM having been a bit over budget.
For the first time, as far as I recall, for the first time since I've been on that board.
Yes, and that's an item that will be discussed at the next regular meeting.
And that was in the context of, we're not getting the excess money back because there isn't any.
And they were over budget on their operations
Yeah.
86,000.
for year-to-date.
I believe as of year end.
Yeah, fiscal year end.
And something about, they'll know the exact numbers when the audit is done, but I didn't think that that's why the auditors are hired, so.
No, it's not. And they do. It doesn't make sense. They don't go on a cash basis.
Yeah.
So,
That comment was made.
there you go.
Let's see, October. Interim manager, Vivian hasn't discussed the possibility and her recommendation that the existing CIP be reviewed by her and the member agency managers, and you, I believe, have had one or two meetings since then about that. And again, I'll insert what came about in the meeting we just had 4 days ago on that Vivian gave a presentation about the process that she advocates for reconsidering the CIP, and also made the strong point that she understood that this had to come to the board and be discussed, and if any changes were made in priorities or actual new proposals, that the board had to be fully informed and approve them.
She had a slideshow presentation, basically describing how you weigh all the different things that might need to be done in terms of what's the relative risk and how bad are the consequences if the item fails. And so if you have something that is really bad if it fails, but the likelihood of it failing is extremely remote, how much sense does it make to put the money into that versus something that is much more likely to fail with a significantly lower adverse impact? And the board had previously agreed to relocate the electrical building, including the standby generator, to higher ground because if I recall, the 97-98 El Nino, the plant didn't have the hydraulic capacity to handle everything that was coming in, and some of the electrical equipment came within, I think it was 2 or 3 feet of being flooded, which would have destroyed the plant. However, the plant rebuild has dramatically increased the hydraulic capacity of the plant, so it can move water through now at a rate of 15.5 million gallons a day equivalent. And the bigger risk that was talked about, in terms of how it could possibly flood, they kept talking tsunami, but it turns out that there isn't high enough ground to move it to protect against tsunami, because the elevation of the plant was, 27 feet MSL, and you have to get to 47 feet to be above the inundation zone.
I think the new platform, the bottom of the building under the proposal was going to be 23 feet. And that was not high enough.
And just so you know, that thing's been beaten to death since then, that whole move the electrical.
And yet, Director Boyd from Montero Water and Sanitary just didn't want to reconsider it. This was SRT Engineering's recommendation, and he just wants to stand firm on that and not reconsider the relative priorities.
Right. So the SAM board commissioned SRT, who's their engineer, to do an electrical liability study for a variety of reasons. They outsourced it because that's a kind of a subset of engineering, that's a specialty set. They came back with this proposal, 5 proposals, you know, and this is, remember, this all came about because a $100,000 switch broke, so
Well,
it started this whole,
but
I'm simplifying things, right? But, and, you know, to
Procedural
fix that would
error.
have been one issue. So they came back with a grandiose plan. We discussed it at the managers meeting. I kept looking at it saying, I'm not an engineer, but I can't believe we have to move this entire thing to higher ground. There's got to be a better way. We subsequently sent it to a peer review to Kennedy Jenks, who looked at it and said, not only is this not a good plan, if it floods, yeah, you can protect this, but it's going to take out all the MCCs and other electrical components. So not only does it not resolve the issue, you know, so there was a whole, so I think that's dead.
Matthew, was I asleep or was the peer review not mentioned at all at the SAM meeting?
I don't think it was mentioned.
Yeah, that's fascinating right there, that
And I think,
no mention whatsoever of peer review,
I'm pretty sure, I sent it around to everybody, so.
but it was not brought up at the SAM meeting.
So that was kind of discredited. Pippin, and I'm not the engineer, Pippin from Montera, he's their water suit, one of the side engineers, I don't know. He didn't look happy about it. You know, when I brought my engineer up, he looked at it and went, what, are you crazy? You know? And then subsequently Vivian looked at it and said it's not in this FEMA floodplain or something, so I don't think she's in favor of it either, so. And I didn't get to report, and I'm co-opting your report here, but I thought it was a good time to jump in. We did a walkthrough of the SAM IPS system, and my engineer, who I flew up with me from San Diego, did a walkthrough of the treatment plant. And we first did the walkthrough of the treatment plant, then I walked through the IPS and the 3 pump stations, Montero, Portola, and Princeton, and I just took down notes and we discussed issues and we did the what-if scenarios, and that's how I always start looking at what bad stuff can happen here. You know, the engineers have these nice charts and everything. I just look at what bad stuff can happen. If I lose power here and, you know, I can't get power there, what will happen? What's our backup plan? And we went through all that, and that was the meeting Vivian couldn't get to for some reason or the other. And I typed up those notes and I sent it around to everybody, and I said, here are my recommendations. We gotta have bypass at the pump stations, we've gotta have electrical bypass, and we've gotta have a standby diesel pump. And she went at a later date and toured
Meaning
this.
owned by SAM and stored on site.
Yeah, so what we've done with all our pump stations is if everything goes out, electrical, the motors, a combination thereof, we can roll up, I say we, the 3 CSDs can roll up a Godwin diesel powered pump. We have couplings, we can hook it up, and that becomes the pump station. So until you can fix whatever it is that's broken. So it's the third redundancy of, you know, safety. So we looked at that, Vivian did her own walkthrough and independently kind of came to the same conclusions, plus an additional one where she starts talking about what the regional board up here looks at, which, you know, they're different regional boards, so she knows far more about that than I do. So that's kind of what we focused on. Then and what we did through the walkthrough, what occurred to me, and I wrote it in my email, was when I look at that CIP program, it's not really projects. A lot of it's just maintenance. They haven't done for one
All right,
reason or another.
we have, I believe, successfully given direction to pull all the maintenance stuff out of there where it never belonged. It was added there by Manager Foley on an arbitrary decision that anything over 5,000 is capital.
Right, and we talked about that at
And
length
I
today,
argued with
too.
him for 7 years on that point.
Because my engineer, who's a good engineer, he's an operations guy, he's out in the field, he looked at it and kind of went, what have they been doing? Why is that, you know, we walked into the Portola pump station, you open the door is rusted off the hinges, you walk in, there's a foul air fan, that sounds like a 50 caliber machine gun going.
Because it's probably the same one that was installed when the building was built in
Right.
1982.
And I still can't figure out why this stuff, and so subsequent to that, I sent around that memo, Vivian sent around her thing, I emailed you two the other day saying I agree with what's in Vivian's memo on the SAM stuff. the member agency managers met again today, and we went through the CIP list, and we said the same thing. And I said, I want to separate that CIP list out into maintenance issues, which are just maintenance. If you need a new pump, buy a new pump. Don't put it as a project, you know?
But replacing the roof on whatever pump station it was also is maintenance.
Right, as is the safety issues, as is fixing the rusted door, you know, on and on and on. And I don't, and then I pointed out that.
The door's rusted because SAM managers ignored me for many years on just painting the damn door.
Right, and it's just little stuff like that. There's only a few real big, true projects in there. And I encouraged Sam today, I said, your historical pump station budget is $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 a year in repair. You've got $195,000 budgeted this year. Go spend it. Let's fix things, you know? And so hopefully they're going to be doing that.
So when you were talking about risk, what's the risk when the roof at one of the pump stations catches fire? You know about that?
Well, it could leak because it's in horrible repair. Catch
I'm-
fire because it's,
I'm being facetious, but I forgot why it caught fire.
right, it could catch fire in a forest fire, so.
Well, I think they had some electrical problem or
Yeah.
something or other.
Yeah, so she got the same vibe I did, you know, which is we've got to go do some of this stuff and not everything on that thing's a project, so. So that's the good news.
And the bad news, of course, is that Director Boyd is doing everything he can to keep us from changing the previously approved CIP.
Well, you say it was approved, and here we go again with that word approved.
Okay.
You approved it for sending out to the member agencies, since if they are projects, they are subject to our approval. So,
Interesting point.
yes.
Yeah.
So it has not been approved, it was approved to release to everybody, and it was done the wrong way. The way it's supposed to be done is Steve was supposed to prepare it, present it to the staff, the member agency managers. We're supposed to look at it, talk it, and send it out, and that didn't happen. And what happens is now you get a document in front of people that's, in their mind, approved, and really has no weight whatsoever.
But now if we're going to change the CIP list, the SAM board would have to approve sending out the changed list.
Well,
Okay.
like I said, and most of it isn't projects. I mean, the Princeton pump, rebuilding the Princeton pump station's a project. You know, putting in a force main's a project. Swapping out a pump's not a project. You know, getting bypass stuff in place is not a project. It doesn't belong on there. So that's why I said they have enough money in that budget to do a lot of projects. Now I'm doing it.
Maintenance,
Do a lot of maintenance work.
Maintenance,
Right, but
yes.
those things weren't specifically
Right.
funded either.
One of the other things,
But Director Boyd did strongly endorse the process that the interim manager outlined. And also, I thought it was clear that it was not, the conclusions were not set. She wants to go through this process and see where it leads. You know,
Yeah.
the list that you came up with is close to the same list that she did, very close. But when this whole evaluation process happens, things may move around.
Right.
and what was the thing that she put up with the acronym SAM? It was like
The last two is asset management.
sewer asset management, maybe?
Yeah, well, that's an asset management plan. We're producing one in our districts.
And so, you know, it's Sam's Sam.
Uh,
Are we having fun yet?
Yeah, which immediately led to confusion.
Mr. President, I just have a question. Director Clark is talking about a process. Does that process that the SAM interim manager came up with include whether and how some of these things come back to other member agencies, or is it a different process?
It would, my understanding was it would include the member agency managers.
Okay, but not
From-
coming back
from-
to the member agency boards?
Well,
From the get-go. Well,
I think we're gonna have to
I
make
think
sure
that's
that
assumed.
she does know how that, we're gonna have to make sure that she knows how that works under our JPA agreement.
Yeah, and there was talk, but not any kind of settlement on having a workshop for the SAM board and member agency managers.
Now, by the way, on the walkthroughs, the interim general manager is attempting to schedule the same tour the two Half Moon Bay reps did, and I guess it's similar to what the agency managers did. And so Vivian wants the rest of the directors to do that also. We just have to watch out for quorum issues because we don't want to have to notice it as a special meeting. So, any of the other directors who want to do it, arrange something, I think it'd be useful for our two newest directors, Jim and Dave, to also tour these facilities and get familiar with it. Now, Matthew seems to be having scheduling date problems, but if we do it potentially, what was the date? Early December on a Thursday? Is that what she was proposing?
Trying to.
Yeah, December 5th, I believe. 5th or
She had
6th.
proposed Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday of that week, and it's however many people can sign up.
Oh, I
The
thought
most
maybe she
people.
said Friday. I have to go back and review the email, but are you guys potentially available during the day? Right now, I can't tell you exactly which day, but sometime toward the end of the first week of December.
The secretary should work.
Potentially.
Yes.
All right, so.
Since you have no time or day, I can say potentially.
And I'll just say, I mean, you can do this out of curiosity rather than any need to, because, God knows I had 4 engineers surrounding me on my trip, so the technical aspects are filled, trust me.
All right, so maybe I'll just have Vivian email you. Make sure I have your email address. You might want to write it down and get it to me before you leave. Okay. And I'll pass that on, and we'll have Vivian try and schedule, and Rick, you probably haven't been on the tour either, right?
Just various pieces over the time, so, but now that my time is, I never worked here on the coast before either. So now I can take a late lunch or an early lunch, and my time is flexible, I can actually do this stuff.
Yeah, it looks like she's targeting doing it 10:30 one day or another. She seems to be fixated on 10:30. So, okay, anything else we need to?
The recruitment of a new general manager, what was it, Bob Murray, is that the name of it?
Yeah, Bob Murray
Yeah.
Associates.
Bob Murray Associates came up with, I think it was 16
I don't remember the exact.
applicants that they didn't throw out right away, and they.
Oh, well, since I'm on the committee, let me do this part of the report.
Okay.
We published a brochure and listed it on various places online, I guess, and published it in other places. And I don't remember the exact number. It was something like 16 applications were received. And someone from Bob Murray Associates went through the resumes, and they chose, I think, 9 to interview, which means the other 7 were tossed out as being unqualified. And I looked at all the ones that they chose not to interview, and when you see things like traffic director in a mailroom, it's like, okay, I think I know why they didn't interview that one.
Is there any discussion of keeping Vivian on? I.e. going back to the way it was 9 years ago, when we had John Burke for 2 days a week?
Director Boyd will fight that tooth and nail.
One vote will, yes.
Well, it's potentially 2 votes.
Okay.
Well, let's say there's 4
That's
votes
2
that
out
are
of 8.
very interested in that option.
Let's say there are probably 5 votes.
Yeah, yeah. But the way I heard it, some others didn't agree, but the way I heard it was that the current interim said that she would like to help out with the process of interviews, et cetera, and if no one gets hired in this round, that she would stick around for another round.
But no one has talked about making this a permanent thing. Because, if
Not-
she's doing well, I don't know what the rush is to hire someone new.
Yeah, not directly. There are some concerns that it's probably not appropriate for me to say in public.
Don't say it.
Yeah, I was just going to
Just don't say
comment
it.
that
Leave it.
this
Yeah.
whole discussion
Pass them.
borders on personnel items
Yeah.
that Sam, I don't know enough
Time
about what
to
you're
move
talking
on.
about it, Sam, to know if you're close to that, but it just, think about that before.
Yeah, it's
But
not.
we don't have to go
It's not a
further.
personnel issue per se, but it's still something that,
That's said enough.
Yeah.
I think it's something you guys should think about.
yeah, and she, I think that Scott probably said she's billing for something like 14 hours a week. And I find that really interesting because when Steve Leonard was still there, I asked him at a board meeting, how many hours a week does it take to do this job? And he said 16 to 20. And yet Scott is adamant that we have to have a full-time GM. And if Vivian is doing it, billing us 14 hours a week, I still would like somebody to explain to me why we need a full-time manager.
We can move on.
I can't.
It's not on the agenda.
So I suggest you look at it and we move on.
All right, so I guess you're saying we are finished with the Sewer Authority, the co-side representatives report. So item 6. Where'd my tabs go? There they are. Item 6. Certificate of appreciation to outgoing director Gail Erickson. And who's got the original?
The original.
Oh,
Is that,
a frame.
Framed
And signed.
Worded a little differently than that.
You mean the one in the frame doesn't match the one in the packet?
No.
Am I holding this well enough so you don't get the glare? So it says certificate of appreciation presented to Gail Erickson for your contributions to the community and dedicated service as a member of the Board of Directors of the Granada Sanitary District from March 10th, 2005 to November 21st, 2013. Technically, she's a director until noon on first Friday in December. So you'll have to trade certificates with Delia for a corrected date. Because legally, you are a director until noon, first Friday in December.
I'm not that picky.
And that was all.
oh, we're not letting you go,
lovingly
Gail. It's
signed.
indentured
lovingly signed.
servitude.
I suggest we have that board meeting on December 4th. That special
Oh,
meeting,
well,
so
you
she
know,
has to come
I'm gonna
back.
come to the meeting.
Don't laugh too hard. Montero Water and Sanitary is having a meeting on Thursday, right before that Friday. So.
Oh, well, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Enjoyed working with you, Gail.
Yes.
Well,
It's been a
thank you.
pleasure.
Likewise.
And I would like to say that I certainly have enjoyed working with you folks, because with the exception of Jim, it's basically been the same.
You haven't
same
enjoyed
group,
working
hasn't
with
it? No, I was gonna say even more. As Jim knows, I have worked with Jim on other projects in the past, and you mentioned NPL, and so I think that it's not that I haven't worked with you, but not on this particular.
How long were the two of you on the MPL board together? That's been a long
Yeah.
time, longer than you've been on this board.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I got this.
Well, I'd also like to thank Gail for bringing all of her experience and all the parks and the pathways and the trails and all the input you've given us over the years for all that perspective that some of us haven't had. So it's been
Well, thank you very much.
happy to have that from.
As I say, I've enjoyed working on this and off the board, but also I think you will be seeing me again. I'm not going away. And if there's any little committees that people are going to have for parks, I certainly expect to be on them. And I believe the county has a couple of committees that I'm currently on, so when you look at particular parks, then you will be seeing me.
You won't have to sit through the sewer stuff anymore.
Well, no, I'm gonna come to, I will be coming to meetings, though. The Parks are on the agenda.
Right, that's true.
So again, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, consent agenda. Any consent items to be held for discussion?
Yes, the minutes.
Wait a
Which-
minute.
I know.
This is backwards.
Well, I can't pull it because they're not there, so.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, you did promise that we'd have them on Monday.
So, yeah, so Delia alerted me 7:30 Friday night that we didn't have the minutes, and I didn't get the message till later, and then I had to wait to get to my desk to find out a date. And then I rushed up here Tuesday in a hurry to try and get to the Half Moon Bay meeting. It just slipped my mind, so I will circulate them, and they'll be on next month's agenda.
All right, so do we have a modem, all right, so item 7 is tabled to the next meeting, and do we have a motion for item 8, the November 2013 warrants, for $142,489.48. Item 9, October 2013 financial statements. Item 10, approval of assessment district distribution number 4-13/14 for $6,814.91.
I'll move that we approve the consent agenda as just enumerated.
Well, second.
There you go. It's moved and seconded. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any no's, any abstentions? The consent agenda is approved. Committee reports. Well, I'll skip the LAFCO report. Although I did stay for the remaining agenda items, and the last one was a preliminary discussion of the Burlingame Hills and the Burlingame Hills sewer maintenance district and Burlingame MSR. And apparently the report indicates that at some point in the future, the direction is that Burlingame Hills will be annexed to Burlingame, and somebody from Burlingame Hills was there, and he said, no, we don't like that idea. We don't want to be part of Burlingame because we're more like Hillsborough. And so the thing is, this unincorporated pocket of Burlingame Hills is surrounded on 3 sides by Burlingame, and on one little side by Hillsborough. They want to be part of Hillsborough, but don't laugh, because his argument made sense, that the city of Burlingame is medium density with what he called small parcels. They're flat, and Burlingame Hills is large parcels that are steeply sloped, and Hillsborough is large parcels that are not flat. And so his argument made sense.
It's the Hills connection.
Yeah. So,
There's more to it than that.
probably.
Yeah, except-
What do you think?
Yeah, they want that zip code, and Hillsborough's effluent goes to a plant that's joint operated in San Mateo, and Burlingame has different plant. So that would be an interest. Although they've already talked about this one place, they have to move the pipe like this, and they can do that. So.
Isn't Burlingame Hills Sewer Maintenance District one of the 2 Prop 218 hearings that the county lost?
Could be, because they're the smallest ones, like 400 or 600 parcels. Yeah, they're tiny.
And if I recall, the county wanted to raise it to something like $2,000 a year. So,
They need a lot of work done.
so I hope nobody here thinks that our sewer service charges are high at $400. Any other reports on seminars, conferences?
As let's say, we had our quarterly chapter meeting of our county special district chapter, which I run over the hill. That was interesting. We had a presentation by the mosquito and vector control people, which I think was probably one of the more interesting presentations we had, because nobody ever really knows what they do. So we have one of those every meeting, and it's a really good one. And then we had a presentation on our recent legislation. We had a lady that come down from Sacramento to talk also. So.
She was from the state CSDA?
Yes, she was state CSDA. And we also had kind of a general movement to try to get more people to come in. So before the next meeting, I'm distributing the whole member agency list to everybody, and everybody's gonna pick up a couple of them they know, and personally encourage more people to show up at the meeting, so we can try to drive the numbers back up. We get about half the agency showing up, and we'd like to see more, so.
Okay. Okay, any other seminars, conferences, or committee meetings? All right, item 12, attorney's report.
Before I say no report, I'm just going to let you all know that Ryan Maroney, our associate who's attended many of our meetings, he and his wife Chloe just had their first child a week ago.
Oh.
So that's why he's not here tonight.
Uh-huh.
Just trying to sleep.
Yes.
Good luck.
All right.
Yeah, I'll probably have to get over that.
So you still get out, we can send him something on his email, his normal email.
Oh, yeah.
And he'll be back on Monday in our office.
How many attorneys are there in your office?
4.
Oh, so there's one that I don't know.
And when you tell me who's going to come to swear people in, I'll tell you the name of our attorney, other attorney.
Well, I have to contact his scheduler and see if he's available.
Okay.
But I'll tell you offline.
Nicole D. Camillo is our other attorney,
Oh.
associate.
Okay. I'll tell you offline.
Okay.
All right, item 13, treasurer's report.
No report.
Item 14, general manager's report.
Nothing further.
Item 15, administrator's report. And my monthly state of the economy, it's like, oh, look, we received one application. Item 16, engineer's report. And there's nothing.
I'll
packet.
report that I am working with John Rayner on our current year CIP, so we're in the process of trying to finalize that.
Can you remind us where we are with replacing the 1920s stuff? Is that completed?
That's what we're finalizing.
Oh, so there's still more of that to be replaced?
Well, I wanted to go, yeah, there's more of it. We only did about 2,000 feet out of 10,000. So we have that it might have been a 6-year plan, I don't know why. We were looking at possibly, because we got such good bids last time we did it, we're looking at possibly consolidating year 2 and 3 to get economies of scale and doing more of the projects at once, so.
Yeah, I think that would make sense if we can still get the, some of the contractors that might still be hungry.
Yeah.
Okay, we are at the end of the agenda, so we are adjourned.
Change your mind?
I said, did you change your mind?
Of course.